In this episode, we're going to focus on something that sounds administrative until you see how often it determines whether intelligence helps or harms, which is how intelligence is shared. Intelligence is powerful because it can change what defenders watch for, how leaders make decisions, and how teams coordinate with partners. But that same power creates risk if information is shared carelessly. Beginners sometimes imagine intelligence sharing as simply forwarding a report or posting indicators in a chat channel, and sometimes that is exactly what happens. But informal sharing can create confusion, leaks, and mistrust. Trusted, auditable processes do not exist to slow things down, because they exist to ensure the right people receive the right information at the right time with the right context and the right controls. Auditability matters because intelligence often influences high-impact decisions, and later you may need to show what was shared, when it was shared, and why it was shared. When sharing is disciplined, intelligence becomes a reliable organizational asset rather than a rumor machine. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Trusted sharing begins with a clear understanding of who needs what and why, because not everyone needs the same detail. Frontline defenders may need specific behavior patterns and scoping guidance to accelerate triage and response. Detection engineers may need stable technique descriptions and telemetry requirements that can be turned into detections and logging improvements. Leaders may need a decision-focused summary, current status, and risk implications, not a deep technical narrative. Legal and communication stakeholders may need careful language and clarity about what is confirmed, suspected, and unknown, because external messaging carries consequences. If you push the same raw product to every audience, you increase the chance of misinterpretation and you increase the chance of oversharing sensitive details. A trusted process is designed around audience needs and the consequences of misunderstanding, which is why it often includes different versions or different levels of detail for different groups. This is not about secrecy for its own sake, but about ensuring information is usable and safe. Auditability also starts with classification discipline, because intelligence often includes information that should not be shared broadly. Some information is sensitive because it reveals internal weaknesses, such as exposed systems, identity control gaps, or incomplete monitoring coverage. Some information is sensitive because it includes details about victims, users, or incidents that could create privacy risk or reputational damage if exposed. Some information is sensitive because it is received from partners under restrictions or because it could reveal sources and methods if shared too widely. A trusted process includes a clear way to label sensitivity, even if the labels are simple, and a clear way to control distribution accordingly. The labels matter because they guide both humans and systems in what can be forwarded, archived, or discussed outside the organization. When labels are missing or inconsistent, people guess, and guessing leads to leaks and confusion. Classification discipline is the foundation of both trust and auditability. Another core element is access control, because trusted sharing depends on knowing who can see what and why. Access control is not only a technical mechanism, but also a governance practice, because access decisions should be based on role and need rather than curiosity. If everyone can access everything, then sensitive intelligence will eventually leak, even if unintentionally, because it only takes one wrong forward. If access is too restrictive, intelligence becomes useless because defenders cannot act on what they do not receive. A mature process balances these risks by defining groups, permissions, and distribution pathways that match operational roles. It also includes onboarding and offboarding discipline, because people change roles, and access that made sense last year may not make sense today. Auditability here means you can later demonstrate that access was appropriate and that distribution matched policy. When access control is aligned to mission, it supports trust because recipients know the information is both relevant and responsibly handled. Trusted sharing also requires version control and consistency, because intelligence products evolve and inconsistent versions can create conflicting actions. During an active incident, assessment can change as new signals emerge, And if different teams act on different versions, coordination suffers. A trusted process ensures that updates are clearly identified, that recipients can tell what changed, and that older versions do not continue circulating as if they are current. This is where sober language and clear confidence calibration become protective, because updates are less disruptive when earlier messages did not overclaim. Version discipline also matters for auditability, because you may later need to explain why a decision was made based on a particular assessment at a particular time. If the organization cannot reconstruct which version was used, it becomes harder to learn from the incident and harder to defend decisions. Trusted processes therefore treat intelligence as a living artifact that must be managed, not as a one-time memo. This approach reduces confusion and strengthens organizational memory. Another often overlooked part of trusted sharing is ensuring context travels with the intelligence, because stripped context is how intelligence turns into misinformation. An indicator shared without explanation can be applied too broadly or too narrowly, causing either wasted effort or missed risk. A claim about attribution shared without confidence language can become a false certainty that shapes decisions incorrectly. A note about a technique shared without scope can lead defenders to chase the wrong systems or ignore the most relevant ones. Trusted processes attach essential context, such as why the information matters, how confident it is, what scope it applies to, and what action is expected. This does not mean every share must be long, because it means each share must include the minimum context needed for safe use. Context is also what makes sharing auditable, because it records intent and interpretation at the moment of distribution. When context is preserved, the organization learns more effectively and avoids repeating mistakes driven by misunderstood intelligence. Auditability also includes logging what was shared and when, because intelligence is part of the organization's risk record. During incidents, organizations may later need to reconstruct timelines, justify response decisions, or respond to audits and inquiries. If intelligence sharing happens entirely in informal chats with no durable record, the organization loses the ability to prove what information was available at decision time. This can also create internal disputes, where different people remember different versions and no one can confirm. A trusted process uses channels that preserve an appropriate record, whether through ticketing systems, incident tracking platforms, or controlled documentation repositories. The record should include recipients, timestamps, and the content or reference to the content, so the organization can later trace how intelligence influenced actions. Auditability is not about spying on employees, but about accountability in a high-stakes environment. When people know sharing is auditable, they tend to be more careful and more disciplined, which improves quality. There is also a security dimension to intelligence sharing itself, because adversaries benefit when they learn what defenders know. If intelligence is shared in uncontrolled channels, it can leak to attackers, especially in environments where compromised accounts exist. This is why trusted sharing processes often include least privilege access and careful control of highly specific indicators that could reveal detection logic. It is also why sharing should avoid unnecessary operational detail that could expose exactly how defenders are hunting or what blind spots exist. The goal is not to hide truth from defenders, but to balance defender usefulness against adversary advantage. In a sense, intelligence sharing is part of the defensive surface area because it can be exploited if not protected. Trusted processes treat intelligence as sensitive material that requires secure handling, even when the audience is internal. This mindset helps prevent accidental disclosure that could degrade defensive effectiveness. When sharing extends beyond the organization, trusted processes become even more critical because partner relationships often depend on reliability and discretion. External sharing can include partners, vendors, industry groups, or government channels, and each may have expectations about what can be shared, how it will be used, and how it will be protected. A trusted, auditable process ensures that external sharing is authorized, appropriately sanitized, and aligned to the purpose of coordination rather than curiosity. It also ensures that restrictions from incoming shared intelligence are respected, so the organization does not violate trust agreements. Auditability matters here because partners may need proof that information was handled appropriately, and your organization may need proof of what was shared if questions arise later. External sharing can be a major force multiplier, but only if trust is maintained through consistent discipline. Once trust is broken, information flows dry up, and that loss can be more damaging than any single indicator leak. A trusted process also includes a mechanism for feedback from recipients, because sharing is not complete when information is delivered. It is complete when it is used and its usefulness is confirmed. Frontline defenders might report that an indicator set is too broad or that the behavior guidance does not map to available telemetry. Detection engineers might report that the technique descriptions are clear, but the logging required is missing. Leaders might report that the summary was clear, but they need a different framing of risk impact for decision meetings. Without feedback loops, intelligence sharing becomes one-way broadcasting, which often leads to misalignment over time. Trusted sharing processes, therefore, incorporate ways for recipients to ask questions, request clarification, and report results, and those interactions become part of the auditable record. This improves both quality and trust because it shows intelligence is a collaborative asset rather than a directive. Feedback makes the next share better, which strengthens adoption and reduces friction. Another practical challenge is speed, because trusted and auditable should not mean slow and bureaucratic in a crisis. The goal is to have processes that are efficient precisely because they are defined in advance. When roles, channels, labeling, and versioning are already established, the team can share quickly without improvising under pressure. In contrast, when processes are undefined, people invent ad hoc sharing methods during incidents, which increases risk and reduces clarity. Trusted processes create a default path, such as where to post updates, how to label them, and who is automatically included, so that speed and safety align. Auditability then becomes a natural byproduct of using the right channels rather than an extra step. In many mature programs, disciplined sharing is what enables speed because it reduces confusion and rework. When everyone knows where to look and what to trust, the organization moves faster. As we wrap up, sharing intelligence through trusted, auditable processes is about ensuring intelligence arrives with the right controls, the right context, and a reliable record of what happened. You begin by tailoring sharing to audience needs and by applying sensitivity labeling so distribution matches risk. You use access control to balance usefulness with protection, and you maintain version discipline so teams do not act on conflicting assessments. You ensure context travels with the intelligence so it is not misused, and you capture sharing in durable channels so the organization can reconstruct decisions and learn later. You protect the sharing process itself because adversaries can benefit from leaks, and you handle external sharing with authorization and trust agreements in mind. You also build feedback loops so sharing becomes a living, improving system rather than one-way broadcasting. When these practices are in place, intelligence becomes a trusted operational asset, and the organization can act quickly with confidence that the information is both accurate and responsibly handled.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.